Hey guys, this is Nick and welcome to your Linux, privacy and open source news for the end of December 2019 and the middle of January 2020. Let's start. This video is sponsored by Linode. Linode offers virtual Linux servers that make it easy and affordable to host your own website, app, Minecraft server or anything else you want. Linode is simple for beginners with a one-click install library for a lot of popular apps like WordPress or Drupal, but it is also highly customizable for Linux power users. It has amazing support, it's available 24/7 and is 100% managed by humans through phone or support ticket. It also has a huge documentation with simple guides to get you started. I started Linode every time I need a server for one of my videos or for personal use, and I encourage you to give Linode a try with $20 free on your new account using the code LinuxEXP19 or by signing up with the link in the description. December the 16th. DXVK 1.5 was released, with the headline feature being that it now includes D9VK, the DirectX translation layer. Apart from that, the DXVK heads-up display that allows to see a few stats and debug info has seen some work, and Halo the Master Chief Collection, Crysis 3, Star Citizen and Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition should now run better and crash less. As always, if you wait just a little bit, this new version of DXVK should be picked up by Proton and distributed through Steam. Google has decided to stop giving an Android license to all phones sold in Turkey. The country wanted them to allow users to choose between search engines on Android, and they flat out decided not to offer Google Play services at all, instead of complying with the order. What is more baffling is that they conform to the same request in the EU, so the development already exists and virtually no other cost is required to apply it. This once again shows that Google is no longer the don't be evil company, and simply doesn't care about being a monopoly and stamping on the competition. December the 18th. Linux Mint 19.3 Tricia has been released. It's based on Ubuntu 18.04.3 LTS and uses the Linux kernel version 5.0. It ships with Celluloid, a new video player replacing XPlayer and VLC. Tomboy is replaced with Gnote, shedding the last application dependent on Mono, and Mint also replaces GIMP with Drawing, a more paint-like alternative, simpler to use. It also has a new system tool to detect and fix problems, such as missing codecs, and brings the new Mint logo to its boot animation. As always, Mint ships with Cinnamon, and the 4.4 upgrade brings a better Bluetooth tool, performance improvements, and full high DPI support. Mint is still a great choice for beginners, with a very customizable GTK desktop, so if you're looking for a distro that's stable and that you can tweak to your liking, there are worse options out there. In another development on the Librem 5 saga, the phone already got a $50 price hike on the 1st of January 2020, and will even go up to $799 once the evergreen batch ships. This is unexpected, but Purism justifies it by saying that as they advance in production, they have to refine their estimates for cost. I already found that phone very expensive for what you got, even though I can understand their vision and their goal, but I don't think this increased price will change anyone's mind about the product. Krita has received an Epic MegaGrant of $25,000. They say this money will be used towards making their development process more sustainable, and as they say, with 5 million users, they kinda need to. Now, what does Epic get out of this? Probably just helping to make a really good open source project that can be used to design assets for various video games and some reconnaissance from the open source community. December the 19th. Kdenlive 19.12 has been officially released with a bunch of improvements to the general performance and to rendering times. It supports a new audio mixer, new waveforms for audio content, and both these improvements have made completing the audio mix on my videos a lot easier. It also fixes a bunch of bugs for dual screen setups and for some buggy effects, and one of my favorite tools, the Bezier curves, got some nice interface improvements. It's a good update and has been stable for me for now. I encourage you to give it a go. Proton 4.11-11 was released, shipping with DXVK 1.5, the version that now incorporates D9VK directly. It should also fix stuttering mouse cursors, restores compatibility with the latest GTA 5 update, and makes mapped mouse cursor buttons work. As always, get it from Steam directly. At least 3,000 Ring users' data has apparently leaked on the internet, including usernames, passwords, and camera names. The smart camera users should probably change their passwords right now to avoid people peeping in on them. This makes me think that the so-called Internet of Things is premature. Security is not up to snuff, and when it touches the very place you live in and your family's life being potentially broadcast for anyone to see, I think it's clear using these kind of objects is a very bad idea. More data leaks, but a bit bigger this time. 267 million Facebook user accounts have been left unprotected and have been posted for download on a hacker forum. The data is now unavailable, but there's no telling if it has been accessed or not. The database contains Facebook IDs, names, phone numbers, mostly from US users. It was accessible since December the 5th. This database was probably the result of data scrapping before Facebook tightened its APIs. Still, if anyone can just grab that kind of data from them, I think it's safe to say that they can't be trusted to keep it. Ubuntu announced the Focus, a high-power laptop shipping with Ubuntu by default. There is no exact word on the price, but the configuration is pretty powerful with a Core i7, 32GB of RAM and a GTX 2060 from Nvidia, as well as 1TB of SSD storage and a 16-inch 1080p screen. It sounds like some kind of gaming machine from the specs or a mobile studio for creatives. For that kind of configuration, I'm sure it won't be under $2,000. December the 27th. The Linux kernel version 5.3 has reached end of life, so if you were using that kernel, it's highly recommended you switch to the newer version, namely 5.4. December the 30th. Proton has launched its own calendar to complete its already excellent Proton Mail service. The calendar is fully encrypted and only available to paid members for now. It will be available to everyone once it exits its current beta status. Mobile app support will come in early 2020, so for now it's restricted to the web. I found Proton Mail one of the best alternatives to Gmail, and with the calendar I'm willing to bet a lot of people will finally make the jump to a more private service. January the 1st. It seems that the Linux kernel just can't stop growing. It has reached almost 28 million lines of code, and more than 21,000 people have contributed to it during the life of the project. The number of commits is also at its lowest since 2013, and the number of contributors actually decreased compared to 2018. Dell has announced an update to their Dell XPS 13 Developer Edition, which ships with Ubuntu 18.04, and the main point here is the addition of a fingerprint reader to it. While not unheard of on Linux, these are usually a bit tricky to get working, so the fact that Dell added it by default and will support that hardware out of the box is awesome. Support for that piece of tech will be coming through an over-the-air update after the launch and be baked in every laptop sold after that. January the 2nd. Linux players enjoying Battlefield 5 will now have to stop, since the anti-cheat software used by EA is recognizing DXVK, the compatibility layer used to run the game on Linux, as a cheating tool, and banning accounts left and right. EA goes a little bit overboard on top of that, since they flat out refuse to unban the accounts of people affected. The least they could do could be to allow these players to regain control of their accounts, which might contain more than just Battlefield 5. The best they could do would be actually to work with their anti-cheat provider to allow for DXVK or offer a solution for Linux gamers, but since it's EA, I won't hold my breath. January the 6th. Apparently Steam for Linux has been started all this time ago by ex-Microsoft employees. It's nice to know that, and it's a friendly reminder that just because someone worked or used to work for a specific company, it doesn't mean they agree or agreed 100% with that company's decisions and management. It also shows that within a company, people can be a driving force for change, even if they don't work for that exact company anymore. Steam for Linux was meant as a wake-up call from Microsoft initially, to try and correct cores from Windows 8 and its store, which made Valve feel pretty uncomfortable, I bet. January the 7th. Firefox 72 was released, bringing enhanced tracking protection, blocking fingerprinting scripts by default, which should prevent third-party tracking solutions to identify your computer through some unique patterns. Notification pop-ups also have been replaced by a more elegant solution, with a small bubble in the address bar, which won't interrupt your browsing, and it seems like Chrome is going to follow suit in 2020 on that matter. To complete the feature set, the picture-in-picture mode for video is now available on Linux as well. It was reserved to Windows users before. It was followed the next day with a point release to fix a vulnerability in the JavaScript engine. January the 10th. DXVK had another update, bringing it to version 1.5.1 with performance enhancements and fixes for DirectX 9 games, such as missing shadows or rendering issues. GTA 5, Halo Combat Evolved, Need for Speed Carbon, Risen 2 or Vampire the Masquerade are among the games that got some attention this time around, and should all perform better. 53 organizations wrote an open letter to the CEO of Google through Privacy International to ask Google to take action against bloatware on Android. They say that these pre-installed, non-removable apps present a huge security flaw, since they can have permissions outside of the Android security model, and that the user has no control or knowledge of what they do. Obviously, I'm all for this kind of action, and I hope Google takes notice and starts to enforce stricter rules on this. Bloatware is always a bad thing. January the 13th. Fedora 32 will enable fstrim by default. fstrim is a command that checks block allocation on SSDs and allows them to avoid wasting cycles and stay alive longer. This command will run weekly and be enabled by default for BTRFS, X4 and XFS. Google has awarded a no-strings-attached gift of $1 million to the University of Vermont to help them on their research on open source. It seems that the objective is to look into how open source community work and interact together, and what makes a community efficient. If it can lead to more open source initiatives, or even a set of best practices and guidelines for successful open source projects, it could be interesting. January the 15th. Ubuntu 20.04 will probably ship with a few changes to its default Yahoo theme. In order to unify the look and feel, it seems like the blue and greens will be replaced by nice deep purple, which I personally like a lot, even though orange and purple remind me of the French train seat colors. They are also experimenting with charcoal grey folders, but this one might not make it into the LTS. Both changes look good to me, but on a dark theme they might not be that legible. We'll have to see if Ubuntu goes ahead with these changes, since 20.04 is an LTS, so I wouldn't expect too many drastic changes. Speaking of themes, GNOME will tweak the shell theme in 3.36. The calendar and notification panel will get drop shadows, bigger notification icons, and generally look a lot clearer. The search in the activities overview will also use cards to separate the various result categories. These are good changes that should make vanilla GNOME look a lot better. Proton 4.11-12 was released, and it's a minor version. Apart from bringing DXVK to version 1.5.1, it also supports more recent OpenVR SDKs, so more VR games should work out of the box. And it fixes a few bugs here and there. And that's it for the news. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't hesitate to like, subscribe and turn on notifications. If you really did like the video, I have a Patreon page. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!